speak. Got dizzy grits rolling up for my enemies. Never silence me, cooking up these Molotov lyrical recipes. I love masterpiece. I'm riding 400 horsepower into the storm. This is your life on the line. Don't say that you're never born. Blood red skies, a green line collapsing into your lungs. Right on this rocket ship, baby, take another trip to the sun. One by one, got bad luck when crushing, breaking my back. Rock and roll with his money, honey, smoking platinum on wax. Yeah. Why are we dreaming while we are wide awake? Sometimes we're walking around in a psychedelic haze. Why are we dreaming while we are wide awake? Sometimes we can't figure out this hallucination maze. And sometimes when we break apart, we feel the noise inside our hearts. Feed the rage and we feed the lies. We lose control when we collide. 'Cause when we're dead inside, we can't feel the life in our veins. Sometimes we'll find ourselves a million fucking miles away. We feel paralyzed, can't feel these scars from our pain. Sometimes we'll find ourselves a million fucking miles away. Why are we sleeping? We should be wide awake. We keep on walking around unconsciously, but sometimes we keep losing out. And they lock us up and they lock us down as we lose our minds and we go insane, feeling victimized as we take the blame. When they break us up and they break us down, but they can't break the truth from our eyes. 'Cause when we're dead inside, can't feel the life in our veins. Sometimes we find ourselves a million fucking miles away. Can't feel the life in our veins. Sometimes we find ourselves a million fucking miles away. We feel paralyzed, can't feel these scars from our pain. Sometimes we find ourselves a million fucking miles away. 'Cause when we're dead inside, can't feel the life in our veins. Sometimes we find ourselves a million fucking miles away. We feel paralyzed, can't feel these scars from our pain. Sometimes we find ourselves a million fucking miles Are we running out of heroes? 'Cause we can't even save ourselves today. Set our future back to zero. 'Cause we've erased all those memories. My falling tears have gone dry without you here by my side. I don't know how to keep my head straight, don't know if I'll survive through all these dark lonely nights. This bottle I pour down the slide, I look up high to the stars. It makes me think of your smile. Always feel like you could be down right here with me, and life has been so fucking hard without you. I wish this couldn't be it. If I could switch, take your place too. You know I wish you were me, and I swear on everything too. My love's eternity, yeah. Are we running out of heroes? Yes, we can't even save ourselves today. Set our future back to zero. 'Cause we've erased all those memories. Are we running out of heroes? 'Cause we can't even save ourselves today. Set our future back to zero. 'Cause we've erased all those memories. We've erased all those memories. We've erased all those memories. Sometimes I find myself lost, surround myself inside walls. I wanna smash every brick down until it's tiny little rocks, so I can break every window that lock my opportunity up. Every minute I stare in is clear, it just keeps on fogging me up. I pour my heart out on fire, ain't no extinguisher. I try to give the message to you, don't wanna be no messenger, but sometimes never listen inside. 'Cause we don't want to love, we live fast and die young, deeper to the fire. Some only feel the burn, yeah. Are we running out of heroes? 'Cause we can't even save ourselves today. Set our future back to zero. 'Cause we've erased all those memories.
Me, that bitch already dead. Believe me, I know what I just said. She can't recall anything since she hit her head. So yeah, it's unfit for her to be president. Evidence seen in the WikiLeaks show it's all a lie and just a big deceit. The system is rigged and the media's colluded. They think we won't find out and treat us like we're stupid, but I know that I'm much smarter than that. The news is subjective, they don't bother with facts, but we can see now it's about to collapse. And then they want to blame it all on the hacks, 'cause they exposed them and we found out the truth. So now we're gonna vote them out when we're in the booth. They should have already had the election called off around the same time she was getting hauled off. They chucked her in the van like a side of beef. You can tell she was dead how she slides her feet. Makes me wonder what else they hide from me. They can't win, so I guess that's why they cheat. They chucked her in the van like a side of beef. You can tell she was dead how she slides her feet. Makes me wonder what else they hide from me. They can't win, so I guess that's why they cheat. I'm paranoid, but not from smoking the weed. I got that way, 'cause I know what I see. That she's paid off with donors to please, so she don't give a fuck about no one like me. I'm deplorable, inexcusable, and ignorable. The cost of life's now unaffordable, and they use that to abort a few million more babies at the last minute. Past witness, suicide or died when they opposed them. Drop a barbell on their neck and they choked them. I guess we have to vote then. Hope the system isn't broken. Go against them, that seems like some kind of death wish. And when we gonna find out who killed Seth Rich? How can I verify my vote's not switched? They should have already had the election called off around the same time we saw her getting hauled off. They chucked her in the van like a side of beef. the van like a side of beef. You can tell she was dead, how she slides her feet. Makes me wonder what else they hide from me. They can't win, so I guess that's why they cheat. They chuck her in the van like a side of beef. You can tell she was dead, how she slides her feet. Makes me wonder what else they hide from me. They can't win.
Hey, Paul, are you okay to drive?
Yeah, I think so.
Are you sure? Cause you look drunk.
You look drunk.
I look drunk?
Yeah, you look drunk.
Oh, thanks a lot, Paul. Sorry I don't look like one of your Instagram whores.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna puke.
Well, maybe I should drive then.
Oh, I'm so drunk right now.
I saw you say you weren't drunk.
Wait, am I drunk or are you drunk?
I think I'm drunk. And I think it's drunk.
If you're
And I think
if you're drunk, you should drive then, right?
Am I in an Uber right now?
Oh, I'm so hungry.
Hey, let's get some fucking French toast.
Why did I drink so much?
You got any left?
Wait a minute. Am I driving? What's it?
I think so.
Is there?
Isn't there supposed to be like a steering wheel over here or something?
I think there's Christmas lights behind me. Huh? Is that?
It's Christmas already?
Is that Santa Claus behind us?
Oh, I want to sit on his lap.
It's
Okay. I'll take care of it, okay?
I don't want to go to jail.
I'll never let anything happen to you, Paul.
Just jump out.
No, Paul! I won't let them fix you.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see. From up here, the world seems small. We can sit together. It's so beautiful, you and me. We meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free. Sometimes you need to go and take a step back to see the truth around you. From a distance you can tell. You and me were meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free. You and me, meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free.
Okay, and finally, new rule. Comedians can't make fun of Joe Biden. Because it's impossible. Because he's been great. I know a bunch of fat people are disappointed. Because trying to make fun of Joe Biden is like praying to God. A complete waste of time. Okay, that's our show. I want to thank my guests, Benjamin Netanyahu and Pete Davidson.
Who's this Joe Biden everyone keeps talking about? Well, I was born and raised in Scranton, PA. Lifeguard by the pool's where I spent my days. Till a dude named Corn Pop, who wasn't that cool, started making trouble at the swimming pool, so I took a chain, wrapped it around my legs. They're hairier than my other legs. Not my... Black kids would touch them. Come on, man. Then I got on a train and moved to D.C. Barack Obama gave a job to me. I shuffled around and sucked fingertips, made a big speech, kissed a boy on the lips. What are you looking at? I wrote the damn bill. I hold the ladies tight and sniff all their hairs. First person American to fall up the stairs. Ran for president. I was a winner. Winner was me. Now I sit at my desk as a president. Not you know the thing. Come on, get your face out of your ears. Hey, Beneford. Beneford, get in here.
You hollered, holy shit.
Where are my clothes?
Sir, I just washed your clothes. I can't physically keep them on your body.
No. We've got a ghost in the White House. I better declare a national emergency.
How about I just find you some new clothes?
You're a good friend, Beneford. Come here, I need to tell you something.
I'm good here, sir.
Come sit on my lap.
I'd rather not.
Sit on my lap! There you are. There's my little buddy. All is well. You're safe now.
I am very uncomfortable and quite sure this violates several labor laws.
Whoa, easy, fella. Easy. Close ghosts can't get you now.
Frankly, I'm more concerned about your schmeckle, sir.
I'm gonna tell you something, but you gotta promise to keep it a secret.
I do not promise.
You drive a hard bargain, okay? I'll tell you.
Can you please put some underpants on first, sir?
There's no time. America's in crisis. Thousands of Mexican melts are overwhelming our southern border. Some as young as $1.99. The BLT movement is in a still.
I love high gas prices. I love
That made absolutely no sense whatsoever.
groceries, and I really love seeing taxes rise. It's so good knowing that I'm giving more but receiving less. It makes me feel humble, but I'm gonna stop with the sarcasm right there, cause I swear we're living in a real jungle. It's what? Pretty simple to me though, it's way past being left or right. Just use your head and common sense and think about how you've been affected in daily life. Is it easier or is it harder? That's the most important question you should think of first, cause life is a bitch already as it is, and you don't need someone that's gonna make it worse. Ask me? I think we're fucked. Don't give me that look, everything sucks. Have you gone outside? Have you been to the store? Have you compared the prices to a year before? Do you drive a car? Have you pumped gas? Don't lie to me now, it sucks ass. You could brush it off like it's a fucking joke, but the media lies, numbers don't. Well, you can't blame Biden, it isn't him. Well, who the fuck is it then? What jacked up the prices? I wanna know why I spend so much up at Conoco. I don't know. I think it's insane that the leader of the country gets no blame, cause the whole entire time, the last 4 years, it was cheap as fuck. I'm just saying, now watch. Down in the comment section, someone's gonna give us an economy lesson. I can't wait to hear your expert analysis on fluctuation and how expenses balance. Hey, it's all a part of the process. What the hell you bitching for? It's fine. Oh yeah, I forgot about the 16 cents that I saved on hot dogs for 4th of July. What a fucking steal. Too bad I spent more on gas just to get to Target. So by the time I got done buying all this shit and filling up my car, I had way less than when I started. Now, I don't really call that saving. No, I call that losing money. It doesn't take a genius to do simple math, but apparently you can't, so who's the dummy? Probably still me. I'm just pissed off. This inflation's fucked up, but I gotta sit here and act like I love this administration with a thumbs up? Stupid. Everything is hell, but you act like I'm supposed to be in heaven. You know our country ain't doing too good when the Waffle Houses start to close at 11. Dude, he can barely talk, and don't act like I'm being overzealous. Every time the man speaks, I have no fucking clue what he's trying to tell us. Every speech is like a gag reel. Every time I see this shit, I'm like, is that real? Well, considering the fact that the only other option was Trump, I don't think it's such a bad deal. Fuck that, I want a strong leader. The strength of a man should be constantly tested, especially when you're in the most powerful position in the world. That should be not even a question. There's really not enough words that can describe the craziness we're facing, dude. But the crazier part is there's still people you need to sit down and really explain this to. Come on, man. Just watch a press conference. You'll see that Joe is all gone. He literally says out loud that he has a list of people he's supposed to call on. And even then he fucks that up. The whole thing is hella awkward. COVID-19 ain't his biggest enemy. It's the goddamn teleprompter. It feels like we don't even have a leader. It's like we're all just following blindly. Each of my grandparents could run circles around him in a debate, and they're almost 90. Look at him. Don't take it from me. Go listen to him. It's not a rumor.
You gotta, I mean,
Today, Junior! Jesus Christ, go on YouTube and click any video of Joe Biden and check out the like and the dislike ratios. That should prove to you that no one likes him. I don't agree with anything he's done. His decisions affect me in many ways. If it was up to me, I'd rather have mean tweets and cheap gas any day.
Don't give me a strike. Don't give me a strike, man. I'm on
pushing
YouTube.
some buttons around here. Boom, boom, boom.
Gotta watch what you say. I'm on YouTube.
What? Did you just sneeze? I'm coming over. I've got the cure.
Trust the science, man. Trust
You better.
Trust the science.
You know how the science works.
Oh, yeah. Trust the WHO. Trust the FDA. Whatever. CDC. Whoever trusts the science, man.
We're very sharp at our trust.
Nice.
What's going on here today? Who needs to come and see me? I hear somebody coughing, sneezing, wheezing.
I'm okay. I'm okay.
I'm coming over. What's going on here today? Who needs? You better be not that.
Are you on YouTube doing this? Whatever.
I don't know.
I'm okay.
Coming over. Lost you. Hold on. Where are you?
I'm here. You're on full screen. That's strange.
I look a
Right.
little scary to some little children, but once those parents get them all in here by their ears, we'll be all right.
You gotta be safe.
You got to be safe, safe and effective.
Yeah, gotta be safe. Whoa.
Whoa! Roll them up! Roll up your sleeves!
Trust the science.
Trust the science!
Yeah.
See me winking! Oh, we got the double juice! We call it the secret snake juice! Ah! 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 Ha, ha. Secret snake juice. Hey, that'll make you smarter, better. Can leap tall buildings in a single bound. Damn it. You can chase trains for a living. It's superhuman strength shit. You want this? Woo!
Message to you, the unvaccinated. Even if I were pollinated and fully vaccinated, I would admire the unvaccinated for withstanding the greatest pressure I've ever seen. From partners, parents, children, friends, colleagues, and even doctors. People who are capable of such personality, courage, and critical ability are undoubtedly the best part of humanity. They are everywhere, in all ages, levels of education, states, and ideas. They are of a special kind. They are the soldiers that every army of light wants to have in its ranks. They are the parent that every child wants to have, and the children that every parent dreams of having. They are beings above the average of their societies. They are the essence of the people who have, well, built all cultures and conquered horizons. They are there, next to you. They look normal, but they are superheroes. They did what others could not. They were the tree that withstood the hurricane of insults, discrimination, and social exclusion. And they did it because they thought they were alone. And they believed that, well, they were the only ones. Banned from their families' tables at Christmas, they never saw anything so cruel. They lost their jobs, let their careers sink, had no more money, but they didn't care. They suffered immeasurable discrimination, denunciation, betrayal, and humiliation, but they kept on going. Never before in humanity has there been such a casting. Now, we all know who are the best on the planet Earth. Men, women, young, old, rich, poor, of all races or religions, the unvaccinated, the chosen of the invisible ark, the only ones who managed to resist when everything collapsed. That's you. You passed an unimaginable test that many of the toughest Marines, commandos, Green Berets, astronauts, and even geniuses could not withstand. You are made of the stuff of the greatest who ever lived. Those heroes born among ordinary men who glow in the dark. Remember, you're the voice, and it's time to make it count.
Hi, my name is Kirk Pendergrass. I'm with Kirk's Law Corner, LLC, and E-Clause, LLC. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak today. You guys have been shammed, violated your rights to due process of law, fellow injury to servant. The governor, according to Article 4, Section 9 of the Idaho Constitution, was required when he did his proclamation to call you folks into session so that we could deal with that state of emergency, because that's the power that properly belongs to the legislature. Natural rights and civil rights have nothing to do with the establishment, support, or management of government. That would be American Jurisprudence, Volume 15, Civil Rights, Section 2. Remember, this is policy, right? Policy doesn't apply to the people. This is an usurpation of power by the governor. This is subversion of law, it's sedition, and it's treasonous. And I implore you all to investigate, do an investigation to whether or not to verify my claims that that's a violation of due process of law and that leads to treason. Because as our representatives, we have the power to instruct you. At the very least, it is an emoluments violation. It is an embezzlement, Title 18, subsection 643. We cannot pay people, public servants, to trespass the law. Our rights are unalienable. They're not to be touched. They're not to be looked at. They're not to be trespassed on because they are our property. I'm not sure if you folks are aware of the Commission on Unalienable Rights that was just created. There is a 60-page report on the Commission for Unalienable Rights. They are, in fact, our property, as our property is an aggregate of guaranteed rights. These are creator-endowed rights. Government was instituted to secure those rights from infringement. And you folks, as our representatives, have been violated by a fellow servant. And again, I implore you to do an investigation to verify my claims. And I'd be happy to sit down with any of you and go over this law right here. This is actually the law. The legislature makes policy. The only other way to make law is through an Article 5 convention or like kind in the states. Again, our rights are not to be put to a vote, right? We all understand that, right? That you're the servants, we're the masters, we the people. It's of the people, by the people, and for the people. Not for corporations, not for a public servant, because an emolument is any advantage, profit, or gain received due to one's position of employment or of holding of office. If you use your position as an advantage, say John Doe Pharmaceuticals is paying you $25,000 to vote a certain way, push a certain bill, that is an emoluments violation.
Thank you.
Прямо сейчас мы находимся в Мариуполе под обстрелом украинских боевиков. Мы слышим...
Наш это Киев. Не то. Ёб твою мать. Ну.
Прямо сейчас... Нет?
Вот, да.
Нормально. Прямо сейчас мы находимся под обстрелом украинских боевиков в...
Are you prepared to testify under oath here today that COVID-19 is a bioweapon?
Yes, I am.
Truth in Plain Sight, bringing truth to light in unbiased, nonpartisan, factually founded reporting worldwide.
Dr. Fleming, we've asked you to come testify about whether COVID-19 and related vaccines are a deliberate bioweapon attack on the United States. Madam Court Reporter, can you please identify yourself for the record?
My name is Karen Usher, Texas CSR number 5536.
Thank you. Can you please swear in the witness?
Dr. Fleming, will you raise your right hand? Do you swear the testimony you give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Dr. Fleming, do you consent to this testimony being used in any appropriate proceeding?
Yes, I do.
First, I'd like to cover some of your qualifications. You have an impressive 90-page resume. I'm not going to go through that, but very briefly, are you a medical doctor?
Yes, I am.
So therefore, you have an MD degree, as it's known.
I do, yes.
And what is your area of specialty?
Nuclear cardiology, cardiology, and internal medicine.
And do you also belong to professional medical associations?
Yes, I do.
Are you a fellow of the American College of Physicians?
Yes.
And are you a fellow of the American Society of Internal Medicine?
Yes.
And you also hold a PhD?
Yes, I do.
And in what field?
Physics.
And you also have a law degree, otherwise known as a JD?
I do.
And are you an inventor in the medical field?
Yes.
And very briefly, can you explain the type of medical inventions that you've invented?
The ability to image the body and determine what types of disease processes are going on by looking at metabolism and blood flow.
And do you hold patents for your inventions?
Yes, I do.
Is it fair to say you're familiar with the world of medical patents?
Yes.
You have the ability to read and interpret medical patents?
Yes, I do.
And are you also an author of professional papers?
Yes, sir.
And approximately how many?
Somewhere between 400 and 500.
And do you also serve on the editorial board of professional journals?
On editorial boards and review boards for the journals.
And briefly, what does a reviewer in a professional journal do?
The obligation is when somebody submits a paper for publication for reviewers to take a look at that material, to determine if it's scientifically valid, to determine if it makes a difference in the field, and to make recommendations back to the editorial board about whether the paper should be accepted or revised or rejected for publication.
Are you prepared to testify under oath here today that COVID-19 is a bioweapon?
Yes, I am.
You wrote a book posing the question, is COVID-19 a bioweapon? Correct?
Correct. The function of the book was to provide information that the general public could look at, and also to provide evidence for the legal system and the medical system to understand the gain-of-function research that's been carried out over a couple decades, to show where the monies came from, to show what papers were published, showing what types of gain-of-function research occurred, and to show the patents, to clearly lay out 2 decades worth of work that's been conducted, funded primarily by the United States, although other countries have been involved, and to show how there's no evidence that SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19, no evidence to show that it's naturally occurring, no animal model for it, and to show the type of research that's been done with coronaviruses, funded by the U.S., supported by NIAID, NIH, Department of Defense, monies that went to Peter Daszak at EcoHealth, to Ralph Burrick at the University of North Carolina, to Shizheng Li at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, and to several other universities around the country, including in the state of Texas.
Did you also look at the genetic code of the SARS-CoV-2 virus, and especially the spike protein?
We did, as well as Professor Luc Montagnier, who is the gentleman who discovered the HIV virus, and several other individuals that we note in the book.
And based on that review of the genetic code, that informed your conclusion that this is a bioweapon.
Right. So the Biological Weapons Convention Treaty states that any adjustment or modification of a biological agent like this virus that doesn't provide a benefit for mankind is a biological weapon. These particular changes in this virus, including the PRRA insert, which are amino acids that were inserted that are very critical for the furin cleavage site for this virus to infect, the insertion sites that were made with HIV and simian or ape-like HIV equivalent viruses, the prion-like domain at the top of the spike protein, as well as the HIV glycoprotein 120 insert that Shizheng Li put in early on that's critical for the attachment of this virus to cells, all of which are not naturally occurring.
So to be clear, the SARS-CoV-2 virus, otherwise known as COVID-19, and especially its spike protein, is not something that's simply involved on its own in nature.
We've looked at all the different coronaviruses that exist on the planet. None of them have the PRRA insert. None of them have this tremendous amount of HIV insert. None of them have a regional binding domain that is a prion-like binding domain, which means that where it attaches to the cells, it's a prion-like domain, and prions are things that are abnormal proteins that cause other proteins to become abnormally folded.
So to be clear, genetic changes were made to the spike protein in a lab to create what is known as the COVID-19, correct?
That's what all the data shows.
Your book references research in 2010 by Shi-Zheng Li, who's often called the Bat Lady. Was that research designed to determine how to increase the spike protein binding capacity to the human ACE2 receptor?
So that was her goal of that research, was to increase the ability of the virus to infect human cells.
Now, interestingly, I think in this published research, they discovered that the naturally occurring spike protein from horseshoe bats was unable to bind to the human ACE2 receptors.
Right, that's exactly right.
So as of 2010, scientists, including Shi-Zheng Li in Wuhan, China, knew that naturally occurring horseshoe bat coronavirus spike proteins could not infect humans.
That's right.
Based on your testimony, it sounds like you discovered at least 2 man-made inserts into the SARS-CoV-2 spike protein genetic code that prove it was produced in a lab.
Right. The research papers that Shi-Zheng Li and Barrick and others published, they were very clear and somewhat proud of the fact that they'd been able to modify the virus and to insert changes into it that made it more effective and potentially more dangerous.
Is there some laboratory mechanism where they're able to take genetic code from elsewhere and put it into a virus?
Right. So you can actually build anything if you know what the structures are. It's like building a car. If you know what the parts are, you simply put it together. Many of the research studies that we have pointed out, they took bits and pieces of one virus, combined it with bits and pieces of another virus. If you go and look at those papers, you'll also find that they were very specific by inserting 5 nucleotide base pairs in there. So they simply switched the base pairs, and that will result in a different amino acid being added and a different protein.
Let's talk about the first insert that you found in the SARS-CoV-2 virus that led you to conclude that it was a man-made bioweapon. The first one I think you refer to is the furin cleavage PRRA insert, correct?
That's correct.
And can you explain briefly what that is?
Okay, so that's 4 amino acids that were put in. When this virus attaches, and I know this is long and complicated because a lot of people have heard of ACE2, which is one of the receptors, but it's a multi-step process. The HIV glycoprotein 120 insert, which was the second one we talked about, is required to attach to what's called a sialic acid receptor raft that stabilizes it and puts it in position. The virus then comes into contact with the ACE2 receptor. That then undergoes a change with something called a TMPRSS2 receptor, which is critical to understanding because that begins the process of bringing that virus into the cell. It then has to undergo furin cleavage at the furin cleavage site, and that's the PRRA, which makes it particularly effective for human cells. And then it comes across also something known as the neuropilin-1 receptor, which is found in the brain.
How did you discover that this PRRA furin cleavage insert had been made to SARS-CoV-2?
All you have to do is the nucleotide-based sequencing, which is how we know all the variants occur. And when you do that, you find this PRRA insert.
Now, this genetic code for the furin cleavage insert, the PRRA, is that found in any other coronavirus in nature?
None.
It's not found in any other coronavirus that exists in the wild?
Right. There's absolutely no other coronavirus that has this PRRA insert. And that's 12 nucleotide bases, not a single base like sickle cell, but 12 specific nucleotide bases to provide for 4 amino acids that very specifically is connected with the furin cleavage site which the U.S. government owns the patent on.
So the fact that this insert and this genetic sequence for this insert is not found in any other coronavirus in nature, what did that tell you?
Well, since mutations occur one nucleotide base at a time, you would have to come up with some phenomenal explanation for why 12 nucleotide bases suddenly inserted themselves into a virus that none of the other viruses in that category have. The original premise that was put forward and actually published in The Lancet was that this was a naturally occurring virus with an animal host that got transmitted to people, but yet there's not been a single animal model found with this. Neither has there been a single coronavirus that has this PRA insert.
You mentioned the second insert, an HIV glycoprotein.
Right.
So are you saying that sections of the genetic code for HIV were inserted into the SARS-CoV-2 virus?
Yeah, Xi Zhengli published this early on, many years ago, where she was very proud of the fact that she did this. She used an HIV pseudovirus to do it. And we also know that HIV glycoprotein 120 is a prion.
So this is the HIV that became famous in the 80s and 90s. It's that HIV.
Right.
And somebody took pieces of the genetic code of HIV and put it into SARS-CoV-2?
That's what Xi Zhengli admitted to in publications that she had, yes.
Were you able to discover why that was done?
According to papers that she published, it was to increase the infectivity to see if she could make it more infective. But it's even clearer that what she was going for was the development of a prion disease, because where everybody is kind of coming up to speed with a virus and how challenging it can be to deal with, what's even more challenging to deal with are prions, because prion diseases are relatively new in our understanding for treatment, and they cause permanent damage unless they can be reversed. And so the development of a prion, putting HIV glycoprotein 120 in there, attaching to the sialic acid receptor, there's nothing about that that is advantageous for people. And the ability to produce prion diseases is quite a weapon.
And how lethal are prion diseases?
People die from prion diseases.
Is this process of inserting these amino acids to increase the infectivity, is that gain of function?
Right. So gain of function is anything that you do that changes a naturally occurring biological agent like this virus. And so the premise of gain of function really has a good premise behind it. The original idea being that if you could stay a step ahead of a potential infectious agent, say a coronavirus, if you could stay just a step ahead, you could do a good job of providing treatments for people and knowing when and where it was going to spread. This isn't a step ahead. This isn't a single nucleotide base. This is a spike protein that has an HIV glycoprotein 120 inserted into it. This is a spike protein that has 4 amino acids to make a furin cleavage site, the PRA insert. This is a spike protein that has multiple other, according to Luc Montagnier, HIV and SIV inserts. This is not something that evolutionarily evolved. The evolution of something with this many changes would take hundreds or thousands of years. This is not staying a step ahead of it. And making this provided no advantage for human beings, which makes it a biological weapons convention treaty violation. It's playing God.
To your knowledge, has anyone been able to disprove or refute the fact that there are artificial man-made insertions into the SARS-CoV-2 virus?
Actually, there's been no dispute of that, except for the statement that it's naturally occurring. And then when you say, well, where's the scientific evidence that it's naturally occurring? There's no follow-up to that. So that for people that are claiming that this is a scientific discussion, I would encourage them to stay with the fact that this is a scientific discussion. There's no science to show that any other coronavirus on the planet has these inserts. There's no science to show that there's a natural reservoir in animal for this virus to occur. In fact, the science points to the fact with over 99% probability, which is what we're dealing with until somebody comes up and confesses, that this is not naturally occurring.
And in your mind, is there any doubt that without this gain-of-function manipulation of the SARS-CoV-2 spike protein, there would have been no pandemic?
We wouldn't have had this virus not been released.
Have any of these folks, Daszak, Barrick, Xi Zhengli, Fauci, explained what that beneficial alleged effect is?
Well, up until now, it seems like most of their conversation has been, we didn't do anything like that, even though the data is now showing it. But as we've learned over the last couple of months, the National Institutes of Health and National Institutes of Allergies and Infectious Disease have now admitted, not that they needed to, but it's nice for them to admit that a gain-of-function research was funded for by the U.S. and that Fauci's statements that they weren't involved in gain-of-function research was not correct.
Dr. Fauci testified under oath to Congress under questioning by Senator Rand Paul that the NIH and NIAID had not funded gain-of-function research. Was that statement truthful?
Well, as we've shown and as we've talked about, that was a lie.
And that lie can be proven by publicly available documents?
Dr. Fauci denied under oath that they provided any gain-of-function research, despite the fact that we have a long track record of gain-of-function research. In fact, that gain-of-function research even occurred during the time that it was shut down during the Clinton administration due to concern by scientists like myself that saw problems with infections getting out from gain-of-function research. That money still got funneled around primarily through Peter Daszak, to whom it got funneled out to Barrick and Xi Zhengli and other sources. And they're denying that they're connected with each other. Just completely goes in the face that they have publications, published papers where both of their names, Barrick's and Xi Zhengling's, are on there. You can find the publications that show NIH funding. I mean, this was not a hidden secret. NIH has now come out since with a statement admitting that they have provided gain-of-function research.
And part of this gain-of-function was designed to make bat coronavirus spike proteins infectious to humans when they were not before.
It's very clear from the research grants that were paid for by the United States, from the published papers that Xi Zhengli and the others have published, by the patents that have been published, that they specifically set out to increase and made possible the ability of these viruses to infect, particularly with the HKU4 and the HIV pseudovirus glycoprotein 120 inserts that Xi Zhengli and the others were involved with, that they intentionally sought to make this more infectious and, in fact, accomplished it.
And who were the main players in these genetic engineering experiments?
Well, the primary ones that we know of are Peter Daszak at EcoHealth, Ralph Barrick at the University of North Carolina, and Xi Zhengli at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. But we know that there's been other individuals involved. We know that other universities, including here in Texas.
How were you able to uncover this gain-of-function research and who funded it?
There were a lot of very interesting sources that were coming forth suggesting places to look. But basically what I did is what any researcher does when they ask a question, which is if you know what question to ask, you can get a wealth of information if somebody has it out there. So I began querying the federal funding sources, specifically looking at EcoHealth and gain-of-function research. And that allowed me to run down the actual grant numbers. So what we have in the book, you don't have to take my word for it, is the actual grant numbers, how much monies there were, whether it came from the Department of Defense, which, by the way, paid for more than half of this.
And did you discover there were attempts to cover up the funding of this gain-of-function research?
Well, yeah, there were a lot of attempts, not very good ones as far as I'm concerned, by including the Lancet letter where, Daszak and so many others got together and then published that this was obviously a naturally occurring virus, doing everything imaginable to skew the scientific medical literature to get people to not consider the possibility of it being a gain-of-function lab-oriented bioweapon.
And did this research violate any treaties or laws?
The Biological Weapons Convention Treaty is very specific. It states that any bacterial agent, in this case a virus, that does not have a benefit for humanity is a violation of the Biological Weapons Convention Treaty. And it's important to note that this is a treaty that the United States has signed and ratified. Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution states that treaties are the supreme law of the land. The signing and ratification of the Biological Weapons Convention Treaty the signing and ratification of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. The United States participating in the Nuremberg trials of 1947 to establish the Nuremberg Code and how patients should be treated. The Declaration of Helsinki that the U.S. has committed to for research patients. The American Medical Association Code of Ethics on Informed Consent. That anybody violating these have already demonstrated that they not only are interested in providing informed consent and patient rights, but if they're violating a treaty, they have violated the U.S. Constitution. And anybody who has taken an oath of office, anybody who has stood there and sworn to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States, who then ignores these treaties, funds these treaties, funds violation of these treaties, as was done in this instance, who refuses to allow patients to have informed consent, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. If you've done that, you have violated the U.S. Constitution. And if you've taken an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution, then you have committed treason.
When you reached the conclusion that SARS-CoV-2 was a bioweapon released on the planet, what was your reaction?
Uncomfortable and disappointed. These individuals have presented nothing to suggest that this type of research was something that they thought was for the benefit of humanity, and considering the funding sources, if you look at the emergency use authorization documents, the documents submitted to the FDA, you have to ask yourself two questions. And the data is right in the EUA documents. The first question is, how many people get sick? And that's this number that we talk about, vaccine efficacy. How many people get sick if they're vaccinated versus how many people get sick if they weren't vaccinated? So that's this vaccine efficacy number. But if you ask the question, why are people getting vaccinated? That's not why they're getting vaccinated. They're getting vaccinated so they don't get sick. And that's called an absolute risk reduction. And if you go to the EUA documents for Pfizer, Moderna, Janssen, the three that are EUA approved in the US, and you ask that fundamental question, how many people do not get sick? For Pfizer, that using their data, there's no statistically significant reduction in COVID cases for vaccinated people versus unvaccinated. If you look at Moderna, the same thing. No statistical reduction in COVID cases for the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated. Janssen did a little bit more complex. They looked at results at 2 weeks, 14 days after their injection, and 28 days or 4 weeks. Now, if you look at their data at 2 weeks after the injection, there is a statistical reduction in the number of COVID cases. If you carry that out 2 more weeks, which they did, that difference is gone. There's no, so if you want to vaccinate people, I guess every 2 weeks, go for it. It doesn't prevent you from getting infected. Statistically, it didn't reduce the number of COVID cases or deaths, and it doesn't prevent you from transmitting it. And that's what we're seeing right now. No virus comes in just one flavor, if you will. Just like if you look around a room, you'll see a whole bunch of people and they're all variants, but they're all very much human, right? So SARS-CoV-2 didn't just come as Wuhan HU1. It had the alpha and the beta and the gamma and the lambda and the delta and all the other variants, all the different changes. And what we've done in the past is we've taken and made vaccines by taking all of the parts of a virus with all of the variants and weakening it, and then injecting that into people. So that if you saw another version of it or other parts of it, you would have an immune response to it. What we did with these vaccines is we very specifically said, let's just look at the spike protein of the original one, the one called Wuhan HU1, and let's make that genetic code and turn the human cells into a manufacturing plant to make those spike proteins. Well, what did that do? For the people who got vaccinated, Many of them who did it because they were worried about other people. So understanding that these people were well-intentioned. They were afraid. They were fearful. They didn't want somebody else to get sick because of them. They didn't want other family members to become sick. They didn't want the man or the woman down the street who had cancer or heart disease to become sick. So as good citizens, they were told, you need to do this and it will make a difference. But the vaccines don't prevent you from getting infected or spreading it. So by using this approach, we injected this mRNA and DNA into people for just one type of spike protein, not the rest of the virus, not the nucleocapsid, which turns out to be what humans make the best immune response to, not the envelope, not the membrane, and not the other types of spike protein. One type. And so what we see is people getting vaccinated with it. And if you track what's happened, not only in the United States, but around the world, as these vaccines have been used, fewer and fewer people have gotten infected with the Wuhan HU1, or if they've gotten infected, they were ready for it, but they weren't ready for the other variants, the alpha, the beta, the gamma, the delta, the mu, the now Omicron, as people like to call it, what I call 21K, but Omicron is now the term for it. Those, they didn't have an immune response to. So they responded to it rapidly, and then when they spread the virus to other people, they spread the ones that weren't attacked because the immune system wasn't ready for it. So we've done a great job of pressure selecting out this virus to the variants so that we're spreading and shifting it. And now the spike protein of Omicron is so much different than even Delta or Alpha or HU1 that the ability of our immune system to respond to that isn't there. And we're seeing more and more people with this variant coming down with symptoms and spreading it to other people. When you ask to have the vaccines done a good job of reducing this, all you have to do is look at the science. All you have to do is look at the numbers. Israel vaccinated the vast majority of its country with the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, and their cases of Delta escalated right off the chart as a result of it. They simply did pressure selection. In the United States, we've done the same thing, where we're seeing the Omicron variant and the Delta variants being pressure selected out by this vaccine program. This has not helped reduce it. It simply shifted the variants and persisted the problem and stressed people and made people afraid.
In this case, if you look at the data, the difference between vaccinated and unvaccinated on an absolute risk reduction standard was statistically insignificant.
The absolute risk reduction is somewhere between 0.8 and 1.3%.
And that was known by the FDA and the drug manufacturers before these vaccines were rolled out.
What bothers me, I mean, I watched these FDA meetings for the EUA, and none of the people on the panel raised the question, what's the absolute risk reduction, which is the goal of actually vaccinating people. I watched the FDA meetings for the booster shots, and I don't remember whether it was Pfizer or Moderna. I want to say it was Moderna, but I won't swear to it. The head of their vaccine project said that T-cell response was unimportant. Well, T-cell response is critical because you have T cells and B cells, and it refers to where they come from. But the T-cell response, it's called innate immunity, is critical, and it's the first thing that happens to people. The B cells or antibody responses occur several days later. But for the antibody response to occur, the T cells have to be working. And we know from published data, and I provided documents on this, that the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines suppress the T cell response in people that get the vaccine. Not only does the count of those cells go down, but the chemicals that they produce, interferon, which simply means it interferes with the production of viruses, and what's called T helper 2 cells, which are a type of T cell that's critical to help make the right antibody response. All of that is suppressed in individuals who get these vaccines. Listening to people tell me that they're Mr. Science, or Big Pharma saying that it's all about the science, or anybody else saying it's all about the science, I'm seeing a tremendous lack of actual science integrity and interrogation of the science, because when you go into the documents, the EUA documents, and you do the science, you do the interrogation of the data to see if it's really different, you discover it's not. The data is very clear. The science is very clear. The vaccines have not done anything to reduce COVID cases or deaths. Just a fundamental question. If you understand that the spike protein is a gain-of-function bioweapon, why would you then replicate that same genetic sequence and put it in a vaccine? I think most people are under the impression that you get an injection in your muscle, that it stays in your muscle, right? Except that's not what happens. The studies are very clear. The lipid nanoparticle influenza vaccine made by Moderna spread to the brain, the bone marrow, the liver, the spleen, the heart, kidneys, the intestine, every part of the animal's body. It doesn't stay at the site of injection. These things aren't being directly injected into your cells. They're being injected into muscle, which has fluid around the cells that drains out to the rest of your body and gets into your bloodstream, where it can have some very serious consequences. Some of the research that we've recently done has looked at the Pfizer, Moderna, and Janssen vaccines and what happens when they are introduced into human blood.
Now, is the introduction of the spike protein into the body through these so-called vaccines functionally different than the introduction of those spike proteins through the SARS-CoV-2 virus?
When people spread infections back and forth, they spread hundreds or thousands, or, if you want to be generous, 10,000 virus particles by coughing or sneezing on somebody. And so that's the amount that you would get exposed to. And that's why, back in 2020, we saw so many people with the comorbidities, because they already had diseases where there was inflammation and blood clotting going on. With the vaccines, those numbers are significantly different. We're not talking about thousands or tens of thousands. We're talking about billions in these vaccines. And
billions of spike proteins?
Billions of genetic sequences to make spike proteins. For Pfizer and Moderna, it's 13.1 billion. For Janssen and AstraZeneca, it's 50 billion. And the other thing is that a virus, to get into your cell, has to find, that ACE2 receptor that we talked about. These vaccines don't. The lipid nanoparticles simply merge with your cell membrane. They don't have to look for an ACE2 receptor to get in. They simply merge with it and release all that genetic sequence in. What we're seeing with vaccinated individuals are healthy people reacting. Why? Because they're not getting exposed to 1,000 or 10,000 virus particles from somebody else who coughed or sneezed on them, which shouldn't have coughed or sneezed on them, right? They're getting billions. And if they have a functioning, healthy body, their immune system is looking at that and saying, wow, we have just been massively infected, and they mount an immune response. And that immune response has inflammation and blood clotting. You release chemicals to kill the cells that are infected. That's why you get a runny nose. That's that fluid being released. And blood clotting to wall off the invader so that it can't get out, number one, and number two, can't get nutrients in, so it dies. So that inflammation and blood clotting is what your body should do, except you don't get infected with billions of these viruses. So healthy people are reacting to something that looks like a nuclear bomb went off in their body, and they're reacting to it, producing a lot of inflammation, a lot of blood clotting, and a lot of very adverse events. And what we're seeing with all the people with adverse events are all the people that are healthy, younger, responding to what appears to be an overwhelming infection in their body with all the spike proteins, and we're seeing inflammation and blood clotting. And you've seen it with strokes and seizures and heart disease and, miscarriages and deaths that we've never seen before in the history of mankind for vaccines that have been made. I remember in the 70s, mainstream media, 60 Minutes did a documentary exposing the lies by Big Pharma and the FDA on the swine flu vaccine. And at 25 deaths, we decided that something needed to be done. So it really doesn't matter to me whether it's been 15,000 deaths or 150,000 deaths. If in 1976, 25 deaths was enough to cause people to say, we need to investigate this, and in 2021, 15,000 deaths isn't enough, we have a problem.
Well, have you seen any evidence that Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Moderna did animal studies before they went to the FDA for emergency use authorization?
I have not, and I have to tell you that all of these call for animal models to be done before you do it in a human so that you know what would happen, right? And I've done animal research for many decades of my life, and there's a reason for doing it. It's because you don't experiment on people unless you're Nazis.
And if I understand it correctly, the CDC VAERS reporting system is showing more deaths and injuries from COVID-19 vaccines than all other vaccines combined for the last 30 years.
It is. And you know, independent upon whether you believe those numbers or not, you think they're 1% or 10%, whether you should put 1 0 or 2 zeros behind the numbers. Here's some interesting things about this reporting system. As a physician, I've tried to call in to the VAERS reporting system, and I get a recording that gives me another telephone number to go to. When I call that number, it gives me a recording and no place to leave a message. I have colleagues who have tried to enter it in on the computer system, and it keeps bouncing back. Now, if you come into a hospital or doctor's office and you have an adverse event to measles, mumps, and rubella vaccines, there's a code to enter into that, and it goes into the computer. If you have an adverse event to diphtheria and tetanus vaccine, there's a code for that that goes into the computer, and that will be tracked through history. These things are called computerized procedural terminology, CPT codes. There is no CPT code to enter into a computer system for an adverse event to any of these SARS-CoV-2 vaccines.
Even though this is part of a clinical trial, and therefore they have a legal obligation to track adverse events, there is no universal code for physicians to code in an adverse event?
That's right.
Have you ever seen that before?
This is the first time.
Wait a second. So these are vaccines that, as I understand it, the ones that are available are still part of a clinical trial that lasts until 2023, correct?
That's what it shows, yes, on the National Clinical Trial site.
And when you're doing a clinical trial, one of the most important things you need to do is accurately track adverse events, I would assume.
We're going to look back on this. We're going to look in not too distance in the future. We're going to look back on 2020 and 2021 in particular, and say, how many people really had an adverse event to these vaccines?
Now, have you seen any animal studies that have been produced or released by any of the current vaccine manufacturers before emergency use authorization?
I haven't seen any animal studies by those corporations before or after they've come out. The only animal studies that have been done are by independent scientists who have been asking the questions that these companies should have been asking, which is, what are the consequences in animals to these vaccines?
What has that research uncovered?
The research done by independent researchers have shown that there is damage to the brains and other body organs caused by these viruses and these vaccines that are called prion diseases. So you can have mad cow disease in the brain, or Alzheimer's in the brain, or amyloid disease in the heart, which is another type of prion disease. But the studies done by people doing the research on the animals have been very clear and very consistent. Prion diseases, inflammation and blood clotting or inflammothrombotic diseases, and real concerns about miscarriages and other health problems and deaths. None of this has been done by Pfizer, Moderna, Janssen, or the other companies.
This animal research could have been done before the emergency use authorization, but we have no record that it was ever done or reported.
This animal research should have been done. It violates every treaty and code that we've ever had as human beings. There was one instance in time that animal research was abandoned by doing it on people first. And we prosecuted those people in 1947 at the Nuremberg trials. One of the questions that we had was, what happens if the vaccine gets into your blood? We've looked at Pfizer, Moderna, and Janssen, all three. And we have looked at the effect that those vaccines have on the blood, and it's almost immediate. What we're going to look at are just 3 examples of slides that we took from 7 different patients and the 3 different vaccines, where we put samples of blood on a microscope slide and looked at them under the microscope. And what you're going to see here in the first image, you're going to see the Pfizer vaccine that was added to the blood, and you're going to see the nice red color of erythrocytes, or red blood cells. That's because they're able to carry oxygen from the lungs to the body. And what you're going to see next to them are a lot of gray cells. These are still what's called red blood cells, although they're no longer red because they're no longer able to carry oxygen. And since there's plenty of oxygen already in the air, what we're seeing is an inability for the hemoglobin in those cells to bind to oxygen. And they stay this way after many, many minutes of watching them. They didn't turn back or even begin to turn back. And in the second slide you're going to look at, we're going to see the exact same thing in another patient. This is Moderna, once it's been added, and you see the same phenomenon. And then finally, the third cell is the Janssen vaccine, showing the exact same phenomenon with the loss of the ability of the hemoglobin to hold oxygen, as shown by gray cells, next to the bright red cells that are still functioning, that haven't been damaged by the vaccine.
If we look at these slides, what we're seeing is that when you added the vaccine to the red blood cells, the red coloration goes away.
The red coloration goes away and it stays away. And it's not a matter of adding just a liquid to it, because we also looked at blood when we added normal saline to it, and it dilutes it out a little bit, but it doesn't take the red color away. All 3 of these vaccines, when we added them to the blood, the red color to the red blood cells goes away, which means the hemoglobin is no longer able to carry oxygen. So that could be due to a couple of things. There's no oxygen to carry. Well, it's open to the atmosphere, so there's plenty of oxygen. So it means the hemoglobin molecule has been damaged, or the membrane of the red blood cell has been damaged. But sickle cell anemia is a damaged ultra red blood cell, and it has no difficulty being a red blood cell. So something's happened to the hemoglobin molecule, and it doesn't reverse. We've watched the blood for many, many minutes. It doesn't reverse. The other thing we saw is that the blood begins to clump together. And it's not a matter of time, because we watched regular blood of these same individuals with normal saline added to it, and their blood didn't clump. So it's not a time phenomenon. It's not because they were drawn up in tubes that had solutions in them that affected the red blood cells, because this blood was drawn directly from the patients, wasn't put in any tubes with any other material in it that could interfere with it. So this is a phenomenon of the vaccines get added, where the vaccines touch the red blood cells turn pale. They're no longer red. The important thing is not only the oxygen carrying capacity, but the fact that that same hemoglobin that picks up oxygen from your lungs and takes it to your body, when it's in your body, takes the carbon dioxide, the waste product out, the acid, and takes it back to your lungs. Well, if the hemoglobin has been damaged so it can't carry oxygen, that same damage exists, and it's unlikely that it's going to even be able to carry the carbon dioxide out. Although carrying the oxygen is kind of the big deal for red blood cells.
And what would be the consequences of having this depletion of the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood cells?
Well, none of those red blood cells can carry any oxygen to your body. The real question is how much of that is going on in any individual, and no amount of this vaccine, of any of these vaccines, should have damaging effect on red blood cells. Again, this is a tissue level thing. This is early on stuff. This is like the animal studies. If you're going to be looking at doing something, giving a drug to a patient, you need to know that the drug will work, and you need to know what consequences there may be. Seriously, this is an easy project to do. You take the vaccines, you take human blood, you add it to it, And if anybody can prove to me that what we saw repeatedly is wrong, hey, go for it. Prove me wrong. But yeah, you're not going to, because the beautiful thing about science is that we've conducted this in more than one site on the planet in 7 different people with all 3 vaccines. They all had the same devastating effect to the blood.
Do you have a working theory or hypothesis as to why these vaccines are causing this blood cell discoloration and clumping?
Yeah, I actually do. We've known for a long period of time that RNA or DNA, when it's outside of a cell, is a prion. Human red blood cells are the only cells in the human body that don't have a nucleus, and they don't have ribosomes. All they have is hemoglobin to carry oxygen and carbon dioxide. So red blood cells can't do anything with genetic code that's entered into it. Now, the lipid nanoparticles would simply merge with the red blood cells. If the red blood cells behave like any other part of the body does that's outside of a cell that doesn't have a nucleus or ribosomes, when RNA or DNA comes into contact with it, it acts like a prion and changes the protein structure. Hemoglobin is a protein. So what it looks to us like is happening is these vaccines are releasing either the RNA or the DNA from the vaccine into the red blood cells, having a prion effect on the hemoglobin molecule, permanently changing the hemoglobin molecule so that it no longer has the same shape or configuration, so it can't bind oxygen, and it won't be able to pick up carbon dioxide.
Dr. Fleming, are the vaccines reprogramming the innate immune system?
What we have seen is that 2 of the critical steps for your immune system, the production of something called interferon, which means it interferes with the replication of the virus, and T helper 2 cells, which are critical for helping to make antibodies. Those are all suppressed. Now, T helper 2 cells, I know is a term people haven't heard. It's a type of T cell. It helps, and it's number 2 in the sequence. It has 3 components that actually need to match up with the B cells that make antibodies. Only when all 3 of those match up does a signal get sent to your antibody system, what's called the adaptive humoral antibody system, to make antibodies of a specific type, targeting a specific infection, and to keep memory cells for that. Now, in the absence of those T helper 2 cells being produced like they should, that system, even though it exists, is going to be blunted.
Based on all of this, would somebody be totally off base if they believe these vaccines were in and of themselves a bioweapon?
Well, the fact that the spike protein is a gain-of-function developed virus, which by definition is a bioweapon, replicating that same genetic sequence and putting it into a vaccine, it doesn't matter how you get it into the human body, it's still a bioweapon. Most alarmingly for the children right now, when you have people at an FDA meeting making a statement that we need to vaccinate the children, but we won't know what happens to them until we vaccinate them, that's the experimental phase of a research project. And as of 1947, I thought that we had officially, although it's very clear from the Tuskegee Airmen and other studies that have been done, paid for by the U.S. government, that it seems that our leaders don't have a problem experimenting on our elderly, on our police officers, on our first responders, on our doctors and nurses, on our general public, and now apparently don't have a problem experimenting on our children.
So if you were advising, for example, the Texas Health Commissioner on how to fight this attack, what would you recommend?
Well, it goes back to one of the statements I made earlier. When you're doing something in medicine or science of any sort, and there's a bad outcome, you quit doing it. You know, if one of my medical students came up to me and said, well, Dr. Fleming, it didn't work the last few times we gave this medication to somebody and they had a really bad outcome, but I want to try it again because maybe it'll work this time, I'd probably kick them off the rotation. We don't keep repeating the things that cause the problem. All the evidence shows there's no statistical benefit to using these vaccines. The mass vaccination has caused pressure selection of these variants. It has produced significant adverse effects in the people it's been given to. The FDA has admitted during its EUA documents for children that we won't know what it does to our children until we experiment on our children. It's very clear. These vaccines have done nothing to solve the problem. They need to be stopped. The companies need to be held legally accountable. The questions about why all these codes and treaties that we claim that we honor are being abused needs to be addressed. The gain-of-function research needs to be stopped, at least until it can be done at some point under some type of control where it actually provides a benefit for humanity without a harm. We need to hold the people accountable that have been responsible for doing this. They have violated the Biological Weapons Convention Treaty. They have violated the Nuremberg Code. They have violated the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. They have violated the American Medical Association Code of Ethics, which may not be a criminal act, but it's the way I thought we were kind of practicing medicine, or we're supposed to practice medicine. There comes a time for everybody to be held accountable for things that they do. People make mistakes. I'm human. You won't have any challenges finding somebody that will tell you that I make mistakes, okay? I know I make mistakes. I'm my worst critic on a science and medical perspective. 2 decades worth of gain-of-function research, all focused on increasing the infectivity of this virus, with consequences that are very clear around the world. We took procedures in 2020 and 2021 that make no scientific sense. There's no data to show that the quarantining of citizens around the world stopped this virus. If there is, explain to me why in 2021 this virus is endemic. It didn't stop it. Physicians abandoned the practice of medicine for a variety of reasons. Some of them might have literally thought they were doing the right thing. Many of them did it because they were told there were no treatments. And who told them that? Agencies out of the federal government? The federal government, run by Fauci and Collins and other people, those agencies don't practice medicine. You don't call them when you go to the hospital. Your physician practices medicine. That's the person you see that takes care of you. We have interfered with the practice of medicine. We have interfered with physicians feeling like they could practice medicine. For the physicians who haven't bothered to actually measure treatment outcomes but are espousing a number of drugs, I encourage them to actually get the quantified, measured data to see whether they work or they don't work. But at least they're trying something, which is kind of what we used to always do before we figured it out. I was there when HIV hit the scenes. We didn't know what we were doing. So we worked. We winged it. We treated symptoms. They were short of breath. We gave them breathing treatments. 2019, we quit giving breathing treatments to people short of breath, even if they were wheezing, because, well, there was no treatment, right? All the things that we did in science and medicine was thrown out the windows. We locked down a society. We put fear into everybody's heart. We told people to quit believing people who might tell you something different. We quit challenging the scientific paradigm. In science, we're always debating. Anybody who thinks that physicians and scientists are just this jolly group of people that are constantly agreeing with each other, no, scientific debate is constantly had. Physicians frequently will talk amongst ourselves and debate what should or shouldn't be done, but that's a free exchange of ideas. That hasn't been done. Texas Medical Association, health authorities, the governor, the attorney general, all of the people should be looking at why this happened to make sure that Texans are taken care of and other people in the country have an opportunity to follow. It needs to be holding accountable the people that caused this chaos, this mayhem to begin with, and stopping it from occurring again.
Follow Truth in Plain Sight, bringing truth to light in unbiased, nonpartisan, factually founded reporting worldwide.
because I'm vulnerable and my doctor told me to.
I got the vaccine to do the right thing.
I got the vaccine to make sure that my dad wouldn't get sick.
I got the COVID vaccine because my husband kept getting exposed to COVID at work.
I got the vaccine to protect my health.
I got the vaccine to protect my friends, my family, and my patients.
I received the vaccine to help protect my patients.
I got the vaccine to be able to travel.
I got the vaccine to protect my dad and my husband.
I got my vaccine because I wanted to help protect people and I wanted life to go back to normal.
But now I'm injured. And then after I was sick, I was told I don't know what to do by doctors.
My physician told me the vaccine couldn't do this to me and that I was healthy.
My doctor said the second jab could kill me, but he later tried to blame something else.
My doctor said that my symptoms could not have come from the vaccine.
My doctor doesn't know what to do.
My doctor said it's kind of like we're all guinea pigs because this is all so new. We don't really know how to deal with these reactions that we're seeing.
I've been told not to share my story because it scares people.
I have been told that I should have known better than to get the vaccine, or I told you not to get the vaccine. My friends tell me I got mine and I'm just fine.
I've had many people tell me that my injury is not from the vaccine. My family told me that I was just stressed and anxious.
I had a friend tell me, well, I guess you're just one of the unlucky ones because I was fine.
Someone close to me told me that I should be silent for the greater good.
I have been bullied. I've had death threats. I've been made fun of.
I have been injured now for 10 months.
5 months. For 6 months.
11 months. 11 months.
11 months.
11 months.
12 months.
13 months.
Nearly 4 months now.
For 7 months.
For 12 months.
13 months. I've now been injured for 13 months.
Hi, my name is Kirk Pendergrass. I'm with Kirk's Law Corner, LLC, and E-Clause, LLC. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak today. You guys have been shammed, violated your rights to due process of law, fellow injury to servant. The governor, according to Article 4, Section 9 of the Idaho Constitution, was required when he did his proclamation to call you folks into session so that we could deal with that state of emergency, because that's the power that properly belongs to the legislature. Natural rights and civil rights have nothing to do with the establishment, support, or management of government. That would be American Jurisprudence, Volume 15, Civil Rights, Section 2. Remember, this is policy, right? Policy doesn't apply to the people. This is an usurpation of power by the governor. This is subversion of law, it's sedition, and it's treasonous. And I implore you all to investigate, do an investigation to whether or not to verify my claims that that's a violation of due process of law and that leads to treason. Because as our representatives, we have the power to instruct you. At the very least, it is an emoluments violation. It is an embezzlement, Title 18, subsection 643. We cannot pay people, public servants, to trespass the law. Our rights are unalienable. They're not to be touched. They're not to be looked at. They're not to be trespassed on because they are our property. I'm not sure if you folks are aware of the Commission on Unalienable Rights that was just created. There is a 60-page report on the Commission for Unalienable Rights. They are, in fact, our property, as our property is an aggregate of guaranteed rights. These are creator-endowed rights. Government was instituted to secure those rights from infringement. And you folks, as our representatives, have been violated by a fellow servant. And again, I implore you to do an investigation to verify my claims. And I'd be happy to sit down with any of you and go over this law right here. This is actually the law. The legislature makes policy. The only other way to make law is through an Article 5 convention or like kind in the states. Again, our rights are not to be put to a vote, right? We all understand that, right? That you're the servants, we're the masters, we the people. It's of the people, by the people, and for the people. Not for corporations, not for a public servant, because an emolument is any advantage, profit, or gain received due to one's position of employment or of holding of office. If you use your position as an advantage, say John Doe Pharmaceuticals is paying you $25,000 to vote a certain way, push a certain bill, that is an emoluments violation.
Thank you.
Well, here we are, the end of 2022, and we've had over 10 million cases of COVID. The Australian Health Department, of course, stopped counting around September sometime because I think it was getting too embarrassing to admit that despite with over 20 million people being vaccinated, over half the country had caught COVID. Whatever happened to protecting you? Whatever happened to protecting you? But we don't want to talk about that anymore. We'll just pull it off the website and not discuss it. We'll not discuss it. And then we've got the excess deaths that Senator Babbitt talked about before. We had 8,706 extra deaths last year, despite the fact that New South Wales locked down for 3 months. So in theory, the deaths should have been lower, like they were in 2020. But let's not count 2021 in the ABS figures, or sorry, 2020 they're not counting. Let's pretend nothing happened there. Almost 140,000 jab injuries, more than all the injuries reported from vaccines since 1971. More than all the injuries put together. You've got an injury rate that's 3 times higher, and yet the TGA don't want to look at the signal. The whole point of having a database where doctors report these injuries, where they tick the box suspected, and as the doctors say, they don't fill these forms out because they don't have the spare time. They don't have a lazy 20 or 30 minutes sitting around filling these forms out if someone fell off a bike. No, they're ticking these boxes because they believe that the vaccine caused the injury that they are reporting. And yet the TGA want to pretend that there's nothing to see here. And why wouldn't they? Because Professor Skerritt is head of an organisation that is funded by Big Pharma. That is funded by Big Pharma. Now, if you want to talk about a conflict of interest, that's it. That's it. And these guys have no idea what they are talking about. I asked Professor Brendan Murphy, who was the Chief Health Officer at the time, whether or not he'd actually read the non-clinical report into the Pfizer vaccine. Guess what? He hadn't read it. Despite that, he'd been saying for the last a couple of days earlier that the spike protein wasn't in the blood. Well, had he read the report, he would have known that they never even tested the spike protein. And they would have also known that when they did the animal trials, that the report said there was no difference in lung inflammation between the placebo group and the vaccinated group after 9 days. There was not one skerrick of evidence that showed that that vaccine was effective. But did anyone in this chamber right here, right now, actually read that report? I bet you not. But you all went out there and said it was safe and effective where you didn't have a clue what you were talking about. And shame on you, because the law in this country in the Australian Immunisation Register says you cannot be coerced into taking a vaccine, number one, and number two is that you need to be properly informed about what is in the vaccine. Now, you've got to dig very far to get to the bottom of this stuff, but that spike protein in the vaccine isn't even the same as the spike protein in the virus. No. They've actually changed one of the nucleotides, and they've actually got a synthetic gene in the vaccine. They've added 70 adenine nucleotides to the poly-A tail, which is designed to make it last longer. It's designed to last longer. The mRNA in the trials was shown to last for up to 9 days. The lipids were shown to last at least 2 days, and they stopped the trials, despite the fact that it doubled. Yeah, listen to this, Senator Hanson-Young. Despite the fact that the concentration of the lipids that are cationic were doubled in the ovaries from day 1 to day 2. You know what they did? They stopped the trial. They stopped the trial and they went and told everyone that it just stays at the site of injection. Well, that was a blatant lie. If you want to talk about misinformation, go and check out page 44 of the Pfizer non-clinical trial report. It was released on the TGA FIO disclosure log 239-6. I've read it numerous times. And guess what? You should also read the top paragraph of page 8 that says that the study suggests that the spike protein can be either inserted into the membrane or secreted from the cell. Now, what does that tell you? I'll tell you what that tells you. It tells you that rather than actually killing the actual pathogen, which is what a normal vaccine would have done, this particular vaccine goes inside your cell, takes over the reproduction, the ribosomes, which is what produces the protein, and then starts producing more of the toxic substance. That is not the name of the game. You would want to actually kill the virus. You do not want to reproduce it. And of course, Brendan Murphy, the Chief Health Officer, claims that there's nothing to worry about. He never read the document. And then we've got Professor Kelly. Of course, he came out and made the bold statement that it stops transmission. Well, he was lying, because the FDA came out in December 20 and said that there was no evidence that the vaccine stopped transmission. And when I pressed him on it, there's no trials to show that there's any IgA in the mucosal system. Okay, you don't have to take my word for it. Go and speak to Robert Clancy, Australia's foremost immunologist and vaccinologist. Okay, he's retired. You can trust this guy. He's not on the take from Big Pharma or the big universities that aren't actually interested in research. They're just interested in lining their own pockets. And then, of course, we've got the vaccine injury scheme, which is just a joke. And today and last night and day after day for the last 15 months, I get contacted by people who have had their lives destroyed by this vaccine, a vaccine that the government said was safe and effective. And if that isn't bad enough, that these people, and I'm looking at you people in this chamber here today, didn't read the documents, that took over someone else's body because it suited your narrative, your command and control narrative, you showed no humanity. No humanity. There are people out there that have not only injured, they have lost their jobs and they cannot get medical support to help them. There are husbands and wives of injured couples who've had to quit their jobs to stay home and look after those people who are being injured, are in incredible amount of pain. And the fact that you're interjecting Senator Hanson-Young just goes to show the type of person you are. How dare you come into this chamber? How dare you come into this chamber and start mocking the vaccine injured?
Senator Waters, your point of order. Senator Rennick, please sit down.
Order.
Senator Waters.
Point of order, reflecting on another senator as well as being odious and tedious.
Not the second part. Senator Rennick, just withdraw it to the extent that you made an adverse inference.
Well, the fact that the Greens party can sit in that corner over there and mock and laugh the vaccine injured. These people aren't anti-vaxxers. They believed what the government told them, as I did when I first came to this place. But I can tell you what, it's nothing but a cesspit of lies in this place. But the fact that the Greens party think that they can just sit there and mock the injured. These people believed in the government. You want to talk about trust and transparency? Oh, yep, there's Senator Walters again mocking, going, come on. Maybe you should pick up the phone. Maybe you people should pick up the phone and talk to some of these people who have been injured. And then we go to the basis, the substance of this Act, the Fair Work Act. This is a public health issue. The idea that businesses in this country can be responsible for the transmission of an airborne virus is just as absurd as the billions of dollars that are getting wasted on the idea of some tiny trace gas in the atmosphere can control that. I mean, we are living in the land of the unicorn farmers and the intellectual pygmies who have just chasing the impossible dream like Sancho Panza chasing the windmills. It is absurd. And yet we stand here today, almost 3 years after the virus broke out in China or whatever, and we have still got this ridiculous mandates in so many places, in particular in the private industry, which is what this amendment will address, and they are still being coerced into getting a vaccine. I've literally just had 3 messages in the last hour about people who are losing their jobs, not in the health sector, but in sectors that are outdoors, nothing to do. It is absurd. It is absurd, and it needs to stop, because the state of emergency, even at the state government level, has been retracted. And yet these people here today do not want to grant people their autonomous right to control what goes in their body. And I might remind members of the LNP that one of our values is the dignity and worth of every individual. You know, we don't believe in multi-patent patent bargaining because we recognise that every business is unique, and we think that, you know, the employer and employee should have the first right in deciding what's best for them. That is what we believe in empowering the individuals to make the decisions that suit their needs the best, and only the individual or the parent of the child can make that decision. But what we've got here today is typical command and control. We've got the Labor Party and the Greens protecting their own narrative that the government can save us. Govern me harder, Daddy. That is what these people believe in.
Senator Canavan.
Sorry.
Senator Hanson-Young.
I move that the question be put and stop this rubbish.
I'm going to put the question that the question be put. Those for the question say aye. Against no. I think the ayes have it. Is division required? Division is required. Bring the bills.
Authorised G. Rennick, LNP Chermside.
Right now, you don't have my consent to record me outside of this room and outside of the city
I
council
don't need your
meeting.
consent. How's that? You want to arrest me? Do it.
You said that we allow you to record. You don't allow me to do anything, sir. I have the right to record.
I'm going to tell y'all right now, you better fire him while you're ahead. I mean, this guy is out of his mind. And if that attorney gave him that advice, you also need to fire him and ask for a refund. And if you just do your damn job, we wouldn't even be here. You get that? We have the right to record our government on duty, whether you like it or not. You want to hide. Why do you want to hide? What are you hiding from? Aren't you transparent? Answer the damn records request, Martinez, and we wouldn't even be here. Don't you get that?
You know, these tests are international in scope. We're seeing this all over the world, guys. Okay, pH of acid soils is 20 times more alkaline. The aluminum in the soil has doubled. Some figures? Okay, latest water test, tested the rain. 13,100 micrograms per liter of aluminum in the rain in 2013. Normally, it should be 0. So 13,100 is pretty damn much, folks. It used to be 0, then it was 100s in the 2000s, and then since 2010, it's into the 1000s and the latest 13,100. In the snow on Mount Shasta, pristine Mount Shasta, 61,000 feet, no, excuse me, 8,000 foot level, 61,000 micrograms per liter, 4 times the amount that is found in the soil up there. Where in the hell is this stuff coming from if it's not coming from the soil?
this. You start by secretly creating a problem in the world and making sure someone else is blamed for it in the public arena, in the public mind. It could be a run on a currency, it could be a government collapse, at its most extreme it could be a war, because the two world wars in this century were funded, all sides were funded by the same people. Provable. The same people that funded the Allies in the Second World War and funded the Soviet Union also funded Hitler. Through loans from America, known as the Young Plan and the Dawes Plan, and also via the German subsidiaries of American multinational companies. Why would they do that? Why would someone want to fund all sides in a war? What is good is a war? Well, first of all, on one level, it makes vast amounts of money if you're lending money to all sides and you're also selling them lots of arms and all that stuff. But the fundamental reason for a war is to change the nature of post-war society. And what we saw in the First World War and the Second World War were massive global examples of problem-reaction-solution. We are looking at a gigantic con trick before our eyes. We don't live in a democracy in this country or in America or in these other places. We live in a one-party state where the same force from the peak of the pyramid string pulls all sides. The creation of a one-world government to which nation-states would be principalities, administrative units, a world central bank which would administer all financial transactions on the planet, a world currency which wouldn't be coins and notes, it would be merely electronic, cashless society for which there are fundamental implications for freedom, as we'll see as we go along tonight. A world army under centralized control with nation-state armies dismantled under the justification of seeking peace, and a microchipped population linked to a global computer, the latter of which sounds bizarre to many people on first hearing, except that we are ridiculously close to it and the technology already exists. So World Health Organization says there's going to be a measles epidemic next year. Get vaccinated. Get your children vaccinated. You're a bad parent if you don't. Then the same people that organize that then start blogging out the vaccine and make a fortune out of it. So if we take one element of that under problem, reaction, solution, it's amazing the extent to which we have given our power away, our spiritual power. It's all about taking our power back. Because once we do that, it's all over.
Booster! Done another booster! And I'll say, you know, people are starting to die. Where'd you hear that? What are you, one of those conspiracy theorists? What are you, a cult member? Extremist, one of them? Here in the NFL, crazy conspiracy theorist. Like, we got.
Because we're going to be waking up. The vast majority of people that have taken the shots are going to be going through a red pill moment, not taking years, not taking even months or weeks. They'll be trying to absorb all this information in an extremely short period of time, and many of them will go ballistic. So I expect I expect frequent, irregular, episodic instances of chaos. But it'll be sort of an organized chaos in the sense that the people that go crazy won't be lashing out, most of them won't be lashing out at the society at large. They'll be going crazy and lashing out at their abusers, very specific individuals. So it wouldn't surprise me, for instance, to see many of the people that we now title the elite be picked off one by one by one and basically removed from this planet by the actions of people that they have harmed over these last 2 years that would be unpredictable and non-stoppable. You need to stand back, okay? People need to understand that there will be a section of the social order that is going to go crazy, in anger, grief, all of this, and there will be reactions, and it's best to not get yourself in the way of those reactions, especially if you're not like a law enforcement personnel kind of fellow that's trained in it, right? Because these will be very violent reactions to having been poisoned. And some of them I expect will be spectacularly so in terms of the violence of it. So it's not going to be wise to hang out around these elite guys.
Hey guys, I hope that I'm live right now. If you guys are able to listen to me properly, as well as there's no issues with the audio or the video whatsoever.
Don't you fret, because Uncle Joe came up with a new slogan that will unite us all and bring us back from the brink.
With great hesitation, what is it, sir?
Make America great again, man!
You can't possibly be serious.
Hi, I'm Caitlyn Jenner, future governess of California. A place once as beautiful as Kylie's second